The definition of a tyrant is a person in a position of authority who exercises power oppressively or despotically. And there's no better example of this than the mayor of McLendon-Chisholm, Keith Short, who is short on character, honor, integrity, and respect. It's time for some straight talk, Rockwall County. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Yes, social media was agag and aghast last night as the gossips of social media went out to vilify and demonize me in an attempt to smear and impugn the facts and to try and create the misimpression that yours truly had done something that was in any way wrong. In fact, I was speaking on behalf and in support of two members of City Council when the mayor abruptly stopped that effort. So that is today's discussion, because last night at the City Council meeting, the mayor actually called the Sheriff's Department out on me. And because I was, as he described and what he claims, I was disruptive. And which when you see the facts, you will see for yourself that it is the mayor, Mayor Keith Short. He is the one who was destructive, that he was the one who was the problem last night, not me. Yes, I went last night to the City Council meeting to thank two members of City Council for their willingness to stand up to this Short guy, a true tyrant. He uses his position of authority and exercises power oppressively and despotically, and in doing so, pushes his weight around, and there's few on the City Council who are willing to stand up to him. When you look at what the issue was that I was there to talk about, the issue was an agenda item 610 that occurred just a couple of meetings ago, where the mayor wanted to hire an additional two full-time firefighters to fill the safer position, which is a grant that the city has engaged in, and we engaged in it when I was mayor. As I talked about on the previous show, this grant allows the city to basically make it possible to use about $1 million, a little over $1 million, and how that $1 million is broken up between the federal government and the city of McLendon-Chisholm was that the city would match 25% of the $336,000 per year that would be pledged for the first 2 years. And then, as you see, in year 3, we're already, by the way, in year 1 and 2. In year 3, that changes to 65%. And so that's a significant change from the previous 2 years. And as we had initially set this up, it was supposed to be a fire department full of part-time and volunteer firefighters. Remember, we're a city that has less than one call per day, and that includes, it averages one call per day, including those in the unincorporated area of the fire district, those people who contribute nothing to their fire safety, but where more than half of all of those calls go. These people pay nothing for their fire protection. Did you hear that? And yet the mayor wants to do more. And so now we have, with this vote, it would make our fire department have put 6 people as full-time employees with full benefits. So rather than using firefighters from other fire departments, whereas I've talked about, I don't know how many times, firefighters, they work 1 day on and 2 days off. And so most firefighters all over the state of Texas have 2 jobs. And so it's very easy to find individuals who have a lot of experience from Dallas, Fort Worth, what have you, from these other fire departments where the experience level is through the roof. They're also trained by those fire departments, so we don't have to pay for training. They also have health benefits, so we don't have to pay for benefits. All we have to pay is their part-time salary. That was the goal. That was the objective. After all, we would be getting a better, higher qualified service by the part-time firefighters than we are getting, and what the mayor believes that we should be getting, which is now 6 full-time firefighters. And so, as you notice, the increase in year 3 to the city is $134,400. That's in year 3. That's 65% of the city's portion. After that, year 4, when the SAFER grant goes away, the city is burdened with $117,000 more. So over the next 2 years, we have some significant increases in expenses that the city is going to have to somehow compensate for, and yet the mayor has no plan for that. And so think about it. We average one call a day, and half of all the calls go outside the city of McLendon-Chisholm. And yet we're trying to build this massive fire department. Well, there were 2 people on the city council who did take exception with this. And the reason it's only $45,000 that's being requested, understanding this is not part of the budget. So this is extra outside of the budget. And it is also in addition to the $200,000 that Keith Short, the Mayor Short, is pushing to give an unscrupulous developer of your tax dollars, $200,000 to help an unscrupulous developer build a strip center that is going to benefit the developer and not the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm. If you haven't seen the show previous, you should be watching those shows. As I move on, I want to give you a sense of what I'm talking about. Here's the vote from the city council meeting. The vote on this agenda item, Keith Short is calling the question. Here it is.
Any other questions for the chief? If there's not any other discussion, all in favor?
Chief, if we could wait, I'd rather wait.
Council, all I can do is present something to you and give you my explanations and justifications. And if you choose to wait, then what can I do? I'm not going to.
We came up with another situation throughout until October. We can readdress this.
Let me remind council. I hate to do this. We've made a motion. We've made a second. We either voted up or we voted down.
You know, what's interesting here is that the mayor of McLendon-Chisholm, Keith Short, actually talks about a parliamentary issue. And that parliamentary issue is they've already called a vote. We need to either vote it up or vote it down. But what you're going to see in just a minute is that the mayor actually just doesn't care. He doesn't have the votes. No one's voting yes. His the next thing out of his mouth should have been, okay, all opposed to this, please signify by saying nay. But he doesn't do that. No, he allows discussion to continue. Even Lorna Kippett at one point goes, wait a minute, are we back in discussion? Are we still in discussion? I thought we were calling for a vote. But of course, Keith Short didn't get what he wanted, so now he is browbeating the city council. You see, these procedures, a lot of people believe that these procedures somehow come from the state of Texas and how meetings are governed and proceed. But in fact, that's not true. In fact, from the Texas Municipal League, they actually answer this question. And the city of McLendon-Chisholm is a member of the Texas Municipal League. And they say that when it asks the question, does state law set out procedural rules that apply to open meetings? It says relatively few procedural rules are contained in the act for meetings of a governmental body. It says that in order to answer these questions, a governing body must consult any applicable laws and any rules of procedure that it has adopted. When I was on the first meeting that I was a member of city council, duly elected, At that first meeting, I proposed that we adopt Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order is parliamentary procedures that every governing body virtually that I'm aware of uses, from Congress all the way down to my HOA and many other HOAs. Robert's Rules of Order is rules of procedure, and it basically outlines how the meetings are going to be move forward with motions and things like that. So that kind of process is something that is, in my opinion, was very important, because ultimately there was no structure. There were no real rules. And while it's suggested that you have some kind of parliamentary procedure, there wasn't anything intact. The state of Texas, state law establishes that for a general law type A city like the city of McLendon-Chisholm is, those of you who are in Rockwall or Royce City or Heath or Forney or wherever you are a home rule city. You make your own rules. A city like McLendon-Chisholm, because of its size, it's less than 5,000 people. And the people have not voted to be home rule. Once, if they would have to vote to become home rule, which I hope that we never do, unless we except for those who love big government. And if you're in a home rule city, you should know that. But the state of Texas establishes here are the parameters, here are the rules, and if you adopt. If the council were to adopt rules of procedure, then the city then is bound legally to follow those procedures. Robert's Rules of Order is what they are. And so under Robert's Rules, Robert's Rules establishes how things occur, and voting is one of them that you just saw there. Now, this is a lot. I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. But the question of voting is debatable, and no one. Well, I am going to read all of it, but this is important. And no one rises to claim the floor. After the question is stated by the chair, he should inquire, "Are you ready for the question?" In other words, are you ready to vote? After a moment's pause, if no one rises, he should put the question to a vote. If the question is debated or people go, no, I want to keep talking about it, the chair should wait until the debate has apparently ceased, when he should again inquire, "Are you ready for the question?" In other words, are you ready to vote? Having given ample time for anyone to rise and claim the floor, and no one having done so, he should put the question to vote and announce the result. Here's the key. Once voting begins, discussion or deliberation on the motion may not continue. And as you saw, the vote had progressed. Watch this again. This is a short clip, so watch this again and see for yourself exactly what I'm talking about.
Any other questions for the chief? If there's not any other discussion, all in favor?
All opposed?
Chief, if we could wait, I'd rather wait.
Council, all I can do is present something to you and give you my explanations and justifications. And if you choose to wait, then what can I do? I can't.
If we came up with, another situation, throughout until October, we can readdress this, right?
Let me remind council, I hate to do this, we've made a motion, we've made a second, we either vote it up or we vote it down.
And then they proceed to move forward with discussion and debate. And the person who debates most vehemently is none other than Keith Short.
What he's asking for is to make sure we're doing things properly, we're doing things quickly, and we're doing things safely.
But
Let me finish. I'm still speaking. I don't like the fact that and it is your vote. I think we're playing with, and I don't mean this to sound wrong because it sounds corny, I think we're playing with fire on waiting till October.
I don't like the fact. Let me finish. Shut up. Let me finish. I don't like the fact that we're playing with people's lives. He actually says that that we are literally playing with people's lives. As I talked about on the last show, The last major fire that occurred, structure fire that occurred inside the city limits. By the way, we average one structure fire per year. The last major fire that we had inside the city limits was in Kingsbridge, and that was on Super Bowl Sunday. That was when the firehouse had all these firefighters there because they were there to watch the game. So they had plenty of people. We had Royce City. We had, I believe, Heath, Rockwall. Fire departments were all there to put water on the fire. And guess what happened? That house burned to the ground. Do you know that if you go there today, you will see a driveway and a pool? But Mayor Short is saying that if we don't vote for this, then people will die. Houses will burn. What's even funnier is if you continue watching, and I'm not going to show all that's not the point of this show. I've already talked about this in a previous show, but Mayor Short has this little temper. He's like a little child, and he kind of goes within himself, and he gets so mad. I don't like this, and he's like a little kid. Have you ever seen a little kid who just doesn't want to do anything, and the mom is trying to console him? Oh, it's okay. Are you going to be okay? You know that I love you. Yeah, and just like yeah. I know. And you know that I'm going to give you more candy. Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, okay. That's when they change. Oh, you're going to give me what I want? Oh, okay. I can relax now. Okay, now we're friends. Otherwise, I'm going to give you the little cold shoulder. Do you want to see that in action? Watch this. Councilman Hodges.
Well, Mayor Monk, we as a city provide a few services. One of them's fire. And I hope that we all want to do it to the best of our ability. So,
Better vote.
in favor of it.
All right.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, now Mayor Hodges can Mayor Short can relax, because now he's got what he wants. That's all he wanted. Just do what I say, and I'll stop pouting. I won't pout anymore about this, and that's exactly what happened. What is also interesting about the whole thing with the mayor, where he talks about how he is going to that it's number one, your decision. That's another thing he says. It's your decision. It's your decision. Really? It is. It's their decision. Actually, it's not their decision. It's the mayor's decision. Do you not believe me? Well, watch this.
All right. If there's no further discussion, got a motion, we've got a second. All in favor? Aye. So I've got 2 ayes. All opposed? Aye. We now have a 50-50 split, which means I get the privilege of voting. I vote in favor of it.
Yeah, Trudy Westner and Lorna Kippett are the only two who stand and say, no, we don't believe that this is the right thing to do. What they wanted to do was they wanted to wait until October, when budget time comes around, where they can see the numbers, where they can determine whether or not we can even afford this, and look at the long-term ramifications of this. They're asking some hard questions. I was surprised by their willingness to stand up to Mayor Short. He didn't make it easy on them, that's for sure. But it's interesting how in this day and age, we have a society where men are almost absent. And when I say men, I mean people who have the fortitude to stand on the conviction of their beliefs. And yet now, more and more, we are seeing more and more women step up, stand out. The Margaret Thatchers of the world. That's why I've always called Adrienne Balcom the Iron Lady of McLendon-Chisholm, because she actually was one of those. And now we have another person, Valerie Bodart, who is running for mayor. She's former military. You have Lorna Kippett and Trudy Westner, who are willing to say, no, I don't agree with what you're doing, Mr. Mayor. I think that that we should wait until budget season. This is not a good idea. The women are saying these things, not the men on the city council. Nathan Hodges caved. Nathan Hodges, he is a man without a backbone. And then, of course, we have Slick Willie Dahl, who sits right next to the mayor and who says nothing throughout the entire city council meeting. He says nothing. The only thing he does is he will look to the mayor when it comes time to vote and to figure out how he needs to vote. He is truly an empty suit. We have no one on the council that seems willing to stand up to this tyrant of a mayor, except for two women, Trudy Wessner and Lorna Kippett. So I went to the council meeting to thank them. I did a show. The last show I did was on this issue, the whole vote, all of the details that surrounded it. And I went with the intention to try and demonstrate that as hard as I have been on them, and I have been hard on them just because I'm hard on anyone who doesn't take a conservative point of view when it comes to government action. But when they do something right, I try to demonstrate the conviction of my beliefs and demonstrate that I will support you when you do the right thing. So when I got to city council meeting, it became very clear to me that the mayor, Keith Short, definitely doesn't like me. In fact, I was the first citizen to have arrived at city council meeting. I was setting, I brought a table in. You know, you got all the chairs are 6 feet apart. I brought a table in. I was starting to set up, and Mayor Short comes from the front of the room, and he charges toward me and said, "Mr. Steinhagen, you're not going to be sitting there. You're going to be sitting in the back of the room. You are not going to be disrupting this. This is for citizens." And I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I am a citizen. I'm both a spokesperson for conservatism. I'm the voice of conservatism in McLendon-Chisholm and Rockwall County, and I am a citizen of this city. And so, no, you will not be prohibiting me from sitting in the front where I want to sit." But he said, "Well, you're not going to cross this line, the line between basically the halfway point of the room." Where he put all the chairs. I said, "Well, I need to make sure that I can, my cameras can see the different angles." He goes, "Oh, you're just going to be an asshole about this. You don't have to be that way." I said, "I think you're the one who is being the asshole." Sorry for those of you who are watching with kids, and I apologize. That's the mayor talking. That's not me talking. That is the mayor talking. I will be making a request for that video from the meeting room. So that you can see for yourself how he charges. Oh, and by the way, social distancing, he didn't give a rip about that. He came right up to me. He has no respect for anyone who doesn't agree with him and kiss his tail end. But that's how it started. That's when I got there. That is the tone the mayor set with me. I guess he saw my last show. Maybe he saw how I was actually supportive of Kippett and Wessner. So when it was my turn to speak, or excuse me, when it came on the agenda where citizens can speak, the citizen comments, the mayor always says the same thing. He says, now, rules of decorum are still in place. Now, I mentioned how we adopted Robert's Rules of Order, which is parliamentary procedure, but rules of decorum are different. A lot of people say, well, we've got Robert's Rules of Order, we've got rules of decorum. No, you don't. Rules of decorum are specific to the governing body that's at play. So, for instance, Congress has its set of rules of decorum, which is different from the state legislature, different from the county commissioners, which is different from the city, and which is different from the HOA. Everyone has a different set of rules of decorum. And when I was mayor, I was the first mayor to ever establish rules of decorum. And those rules of decorum were established so that citizens could say whatever they wanted. They could talk about whatever issue they wanted to talk about for as long as they wanted to talk. And that drove some members of council crazy. I got into conversations with members of council saying, hey, can't you limit their times? I said, I guess I can, but why would I want to? Because I believe in the free expression, even though I don't agree with some of the things that they're saying, and even though some of the things that people are saying are just absolutely stupid. But I believe in their right to say it for as long as they want to talk. And if we're wise, we will listen to them, which we did. We listened so intently that we would write notes while they were talking, and people and Keith Short, not Mayor Short. He wasn't mayor then. He was a candidate for mayor. He came to the city council meeting. When I was looking down, he said, I would be ashamed to be sitting where you are if I were you. You're not looking at people when they talk. That's the kind of tyrant that he is. So parliamentary, so the rules of decorum, I established them when I was mayor. I wanted to make sure that it was possible for citizens to understand what those rules of decorum were, and I made sure that a printed copy was placed in chambers, copies, so anyone who wanted to know what the rules of decorum could get them. And oftentimes, many times, and if you go back to those meetings, just go back to the beginning of the meetings, and you will hear me read off the rules of decorum. And you will hear me say, you can speak for as long as you want about whatever you want to talk about. I didn't make people sign up and give me their name and phone number and email address and tell me what they want to talk about. No, I think that's despotism. That's what despots do. No, I believe in the freedom of speech. Mayor Keith Short does not. He is a despot, a tyrant. He hates the Constitution of the United States. How do I know that? Because he denies people the right to speak. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. But when I went to the council, I did not know, number one, if they were following Robert's Rules of Order, because as you just saw in the last vote, which was the meeting, meeting or two before this one, clearly Robert's Rules of Order didn't matter. It was kind of selective whether or not they wanted to play by Robert's Rules of Order or not. And so I made a point of information to ask, first of all, are you still abiding by Robert's Rules of Order? The second thing I did was a parliamentary inquiry. Parliamentary inquiry to ask specifically what the rules of decorum were. And you will see what I asked. Now, I will not read all of this, I promise that, but let me just take a couple of highlights from this so that you understand what a parliamentary inquiry is. If it relates to a question that requires immediate attention and may be made while another has the floor or even interrupt a speech. So even though I'm a citizen, if I was a member of council and someone else was speaking, I could interrupt them, and that would be in order as a part of parliamentary inquiry. And so the inquirer does not obtain the floor, like I said, but rises and says, Mr. Chairman, or in this case, the mayor, I rise to, or I make a parliamentary inquiry. The chairman, or the mayor in this case, asks him to state his inquiry, and if he deems it pertinent, he answers it. Now, here's the thing. While it's not the duty of the chairman to answer questions of parliamentary law in general, it is the duty, when requested by a member, to answer any questions on parliamentary law pertinent to the pending business that may be necessary to enable the member to make a suitable motion or to raise a point of order. Before I began speaking, I wanted to know, are there time limits? What are my parameters to speak? I wanted to know. I was asking these questions before I began my comments, which is all in order. The chairman or the mayor is supposed to be familiar with parliamentary law, while many of the members are not. A member wishing to raise a point of order and yet in doubt should rise to a parliamentary inquiry and ask for information. So, what you're going to see now is the beginning of my citizen comments. Now, when the mayor started the meeting, when he started to go to citizen comments, he said, now rules of decorum are still in place. The problem is there's no copies of rules of decorum. Never has been. They're on the website. They're nowhere to be found. Rules of decorum are still in place. That's all he says. The next thing he says is, well, Val Bodart is going to go first, and then I've got a citizen comment to read. And I raised my hand and said, excuse me, I'd like to speak too. He goes, oh, well, you need to go and you need to go fill out a form. Where are the forms? They're in the back of the room on a chair. They're not on a table. There's no sign that says, here is the, if you'd like to speak at tonight's meeting, here is the form to fill in. So while Valerie Bodart is speaking, I go to the back, I get a form, and I then start filling it out with my name and what I want to talk about and whether or not it has to do with the agenda item or not an agenda item. Never done it. As I tell the council, this is the first time since leaving office that I have addressed the city council. And so I wanted to know what the rules of decorum were, and I wanted to know whether or not they were still abiding by Robert's Rules of Order. And so I submit that. And so when it is my turn, I came right after Val. The mayor says, Mr. Steinhagen, and then I stand up and here's what occurs.
Robert Steinhagen, 304 Pheasant Hill Drive. Before I begin my comments, I have a point of information.
What do you need, sir?
How are these meetings still governed by Robert's Rules of Order? Okay. I have a point of parliamentary inquiry following that.
Well, I'm not going to get into any discussions with you tonight. Okay. Anything you have to say during citizens' comments, you can say them. Any questions you have, you can refer them to city staff, and we'll get back with you with your answers. I'm not going to engage in a conversation.
Do you have a parliamentarian?
Did you hear what I said, sir?
Mr. Mayor, you have just stated that you are governed by Robert's Rules of Order. And under Robert's Rules of Order, when someone makes a point of parliamentary inquiry, that is in order and you may answer. In fact, you are required to answer. My point of parliamentary procedure concerns a rule of decorum. In accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, rules of decorum shall be established by a governing body, as all governing bodies work differently. For instance, the United States Congress, which uses Robert's Rules of Order, works differently than the state legislature in the state of Texas. Under Robert's Rules,
Sound continues to go out.
these rules can be made available through the city website. As mayor, I was the first to establish rules of decorum, which were made available. I often read those rules of decorum to avoid confusion and help provide clarity to all in attendance. Seeing as there are no copies available, the rules of decorum, and you've stated that the rules of decorum are still in place, my point of parliamentary inquiry is to know exactly how the rules of decorum have changed since I've left office.
As you stated, I can answer. My answer to you was you can refer your question to city staff and we'll get back.
So you have affirmed that the rules of decorum that I established remain in place and unchanged. Thank you.
When he says that the city staff, you can refer those questions to city staff, as you saw, based upon Robert's Rules of Order, that is not the case. The chair, or the mayor in this case, is required to answer the question. And it is necessary for me to move forward with my comments and to have that question answered before I move forward with my comments. So therefore, I make the assumption that the rules of decorum are still in place that I had established about 3 years prior to that. Now, the point of information, now the thing that you have to understand about time limits is that was the first part where I think this thing came off the rails, actually. Because when it comes to time limits, Robert's Rules of Order establishes that the time spent to handle incidental motions, including division of a question, questions of order and appeal, points of order, points of information, and that, guess what? Points of parliamentary inquiry do not count against a speaker's limit on time. And therefore, my time had not even begun. Further, it states that in such instances, the timekeeper should stop the time clock until the speaker has resumed. So my time had not even begun. I was making, under Robert's Rules of Order, the mayor established that he was governed by Robert's Rules of Order. He would not answer the question regarding rules of decorum. Therefore, I have position based upon Robert's rules to move forward with my comments. Now, a couple things to note. I'm going to let you hear my entire citizen comments. What you will notice is that around 4 minutes into it, the mayor stops what I'm saying and says my time is up. You will understand I was speaking extemporaneously. I did not have a script. I didn't have notes. I was speaking extemporaneously. So when interrupted, which is why you don't interrupt under Robert's rules, unless it is an interruptible motion, which it wasn't. The mayor was out of order to interrupt me. So trying to get back on track, I am the entire conversation that I am having with the mayor, you will see, is based upon parliamentary procedure, and as he continues to arrogantly push aside my questions and concerns, ignore what I have to say, ignore the facts that I brought with me that establish that this guy hasn't a clue what Robert's Rules of Order are supposed to be, what he's supposed to be doing in following this. The fact that you will see that I am going after him on these facts, that ultimately he is a tyrant. It is only his way. If he doesn't like what you have to say, as I focus on, as I highlight, then you're irrelevant. This is a violation, by the way, not just Robert's Rules of Order, but because it's been established as the parliamentary procedure for the city of McLendon-Chisholm, and has not been, and he has affirmed that, it is now a violation of state law and my right as a United States citizen of free speech, guaranteed not just by the Constitution, but affirmed by the state of Texas, who established the right of citizens to speak based upon that First Amendment. Here's my entire citizen comments. Watch the clock. I stop the clock and I show you just how much time I actually spend in giving a citizen comments despite what the mayor says. And I go back a little bit.
So you have affirmed that the rules of decorum that I established remain in place and unchanged. Thank you. This is the first time, Council, that I have addressed this body since leaving office 2 years ago. I have a show, the Bunker Bob Show, bunkerbob.com, where citizens can hear all the facts about what happens in our city and the county. I first want to say thank you. No, let me strike that. I first want to make an apology. I'd like to publicly apologize to Mrs. Wessner for mispronouncing your name as Wosner. Well, and I apologize still. And no one had told me how to pronounce it until tonight. And thank you, Mrs. Kippett, for telling me how to pronounce your name. Mrs. Wessner, Mrs. Kippett, I'm here to say thank you to both of you. The two of you at the March 10th meeting demonstrated a willingness, a desire to see that fiscal responsibility in our city be ahead of the good feelings that often accompanies big government liberalism. The two of you stood in opposition of the mayor, who violated Robert's Rules of Order when he called for a vote. The vote when he asked, and this is on video, and I showed this on the last show, I believe. He asked if there was any more discussion, any more questions for the fire chief, and any more discussion. Hearing none, he moved for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. No one said anything. Mr. Hodges stated clearly in the video, I think we should wait until October. Discussion then ensued, which is a violation of Robert's rules. That's why I asked, how are we governed? Is parliamentary procedure governed under Robert's rules? Robert's Rules of Order appears to be something that is only adhered to when it is for the convenience of Mayor Short. I find that reprehensible. To Mrs. Kippett and Mrs. Wessner, sorry, I'm used to calling, sorry. The two of you asked some very hard questions. The questions that you were asking were, how are we going to pay for this? What is this going to cost? I think we need to wait until the budget, October, when we talk about budget, to see how this is going to come in. Mrs. Kippett even highlighted the fact that next year, the SAFER grant is going to go from where the city has to provide 25% match to 65% match. We are going to have a $140,000, I think, increase to our budget need. And while this COVID issue is going on, and while I have not heard how you intend to pay for it, the mayor insisted that the council move forward and accept these two new positions. I don't believe for a second that Mrs. Kippett nor Mrs. Wessner don't care about the public safety of the people of McLendon-Chisholm. In fact, I think it is quite the contrary.
Mr. Stein,
They are.
you've hit your 5 minutes. That is on the form that you put in. You're stuck for 5 minutes.
Mr. Short, I asked you if rules of decorum, I asked you a specific question regarding rules of decorum. And the rules of decorum,
Sir, you are done.
you established that the rules of decorum have established that I can speak and that I am not, and that you may not impede my right to speak.
He's stopping the meeting.
Mr. Short, I realize that you prefer to be a
Tells him to call
demagogue
the sheriff.
and
Call the
you
sheriff.
care not about the voice of the people, and you don't care about the free speech of citizens. And you don't care about decorum. You don't care about any of this. Robert's Rules of Order is only applicable when it serves your purpose. Mrs. Kippett and Mrs. Wessner, thank you for standing up to a tyrant like Mr. Short.
Now notice he's still sitting there, and he continued to engage me throughout the process. And he was saying, and he had the sheriff called. The meeting stopped. We sat for 20 minutes waiting for a sheriff to arrive, and nothing transpired. In fact, the mayor literally, just a few seconds after that clip, he gets up and he goes and runs to the back, and I never see him again. He will not come out until I'm gone. In fact, you can see him peeking his little eye out through the door. I saw him do that, and then the door closed. He has his own little bunker, and he told the sheriff. And what's interesting about this, when the sheriff's deputies arrived, it wasn't one deputy, it wasn't two, it was three deputies and three deputies' vehicles. So understand, just to give you a little perspective, when I was mayor, we had a situation where someone was disruptive. We asked that a sheriff's deputy come out, and one did. That's all we needed. One. There were other times where Adrian Balcom, when I was when Mayor Keith Short was mayor, and there was certain individuals who actually made threats against Ms. Balcom during council meetings, and she called the sheriff. And one officer came out, and guess what they did? Did the mayor demand that that person be removed? No. Why? Perhaps it's because he was a supporter of Keith Short. Now, in my case, 3 sheriff's officers come out. 3. Now, I ask you, am I that much of a threat? Am I really that much of a threat? No. The purpose was to intimidate me. What I am going to be doing is I am going to be making a request for open records for the call that came in. And what exactly did they say that got such an overwhelming response from 3 sheriff's deputies? Think about this. This is your tax dollars. They send 3 sheriff's officers to handle a situation where I was not doing anything unlawful, but the mayor was. The mayor was violating my rights, but I was not disruptive. I was simply standing for what I knew to be true, and the mayor doesn't care. And so what does he do? He lies to authorities. Remember, he's a little man with a badge. He has his own little badge. He's a school resource officer so that he can thump little heads. He likes authority. 3 sheriff's deputies. And when in the past, when his supporters would berate and go after Ms. Balcom and disrupt the meeting, he didn't have them removed. I went back and when the sheriff's deputies, they came in, they went to the back first and they talked to the mayor and I don't know who else, but I'm getting body cam footage, and I asked for them to write a report, which I said, are you going to write a report? And they said, well, I don't know. I said, well, I asked that you would write a report, and I would like to know everyone that you spoke with and what they said to you. And because they're saying, well, we've got all of these witnesses who are saying that you are causing a disruption, that you are disrupting the meeting. You saw the video for yourself. You heard what I said. When I finished my comments, what did I do? I sat down. So I talked to these 3 officers, and I just asked them, and by the way, let me just make something very clear. The 3 officers could not have been more nice and genuinely kind. They were not Keith Shorts. They were not these guys who wielded their authority and tried to say, hey, you're going to do this or whatever. They were saying, hey, listen, we're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. They're saying that you need to leave. And I said, no, wait a minute. This is a public place. What if I refuse? What if I refuse to leave and demand my right to sit in this public meeting? They all looked at each other and they didn't have an answer. And then one of them finally said, well, the mayor is going to file charges against you for trespassing, for criminal trespassing. And I said, how does that work? This is a public building. I am not trespassing. I am a tax-paying citizen of McLendon-Chisholm. I am helping to pay for the boondoggle that is that City Hall building. How is it trespassing? I urged them to contact the district attorney's office to get a ruling, to get understanding before they forced the issue. Because I'm not an attorney, neither are they. But the district attorney is someone who could have informed them, and I encouraged them to do that. They wouldn't do it. They weren't being defiant. They weren't being snippy at all. So don't get that impression. But they wanted to solve the issue. And I told them, I said, my time, I've said what I need to say. I can sit in the city council chamber, and I have nothing else to add. I'm just simply here to record. And so he goes back and he talks to the mayor, to Tyrant Short, and he comes back and says, the mayor wants you gone. And I said, how can he do that? And he said, and it was explained to me this way, as the body cam footage will show, that if someone comes to your house and they become disruptive, you can tell them to leave. And I said, that is a completely different situation, because this is not a private home. This is a public place. I cannot be forced to leave a public place at a public meeting, especially when I am a watchdog for our community. And the mayor insisted not just that I leave, but all of my equipment leave with me. He did not want to be filmed. He did not want the background to be filmed. And ironically, unbeknownst to me, my equipment was not working. My broadcast wasn't working. It wouldn't matter. So it wouldn't matter. But the point is, the mayor wanted me gone. He likes the dark of night. And so I told the gentleman, I said, look, I'm not going to make your life hard. I said, I respect law enforcement. I respect the rule of law. And I said, I do not believe that I should be required to leave. And I believe that my rights are being violated right now. And I told him, I said, look, this may not seem like a big deal to you, but as a citizen of the United States of America who cares deeply about the rights of others, to see a tyrant, to see a despot like Keith Short, a little man with a little power, go to his head. God help anyone who comes within his crosshair when he has that big badge on. Because I suspect, I wonder how many people's rights he's violated. I'm just curious how many people's rights has Keith Short as an officer in Royce City? How many rights has he violated? Because clearly he doesn't care to know the law when it comes to running meetings. He didn't care to know the rules. I can only assume that that's going to be true when he's wearing his badge and going around all the students and frisking them or whatever he does to them. He's a despot. He's a despicable individual. Val Bodart spoke before I did, and she spoke very well on an issue that I did want to speak to, but she spoke too well. And I think it was funny. She seems to not feel good about what she said. I encourage you to go back and listen to it. She focused on the fact that the meeting before this one, the mayor and city council, the mayor put together what's called a consent agenda. Basically, a consent agenda is where you put things like the minutes and reports and things like that don't require debate, that are usual and customary, that are non-controversial. You put them on there and you just say, okay, we're going to vote on the consent agenda. All in favor, yes. Everything on the consent agenda passes. The mayor had put two new contractors on this consent agenda, along with moving the election so that he can be in office another 6 months, along with several other things that were neither usual nor customary. They were most of them all controversial. And Val Bodart stated that was outrageous. That was unacceptable. Val Bodart, by the way, is running for mayor. It might be a real good idea for you to talk to this veteran, this military veteran who loves her country, so much that she didn't just go and fight, but now as a citizen, she stands for the Constitution like all of us, I think, would want. Here is from the TML, the Texas Municipal League. It asks that may members of the public be removed from an open meeting for causing a disturbance. Well, the second to the last sentence says, what constitutes conduct that arises to the level of disorderly conduct is a fact issue for the governing body to consider. The last sentence says, a local entity may want to consult its attorney for guidance on what actions may constitute disorderly conduct, which is what I was accused of, and adopt policies to put the public on notice. And again, I had asked for rules of decorum. I wanted to know what I could and couldn't do, but the mayor refused. And so while all this is going on, the social media gossips are just throwing out lies and misinformation. One of the lies, as I understand, is Robert Steinhagen got taken out of the city hall by the 3 sheriff's deputies. Not true. The sheriff's deputies came in and said, "Can we talk to you?" And I walked out with them. That's the fact. the malicious gossip, the busybody gossip, whose husband happened to be at the city council meeting and was texting his wife all of the little juicy, dainty morsels. That's what the Bible talks about when it talks about gossip, the person who loves the dainty morsels of gossip, the half-truths, misinformation. Yeah, he was texting his wife, and then I was alerted to the fact that Adrian Balcom came to the city council meeting after she saw what was going on. She was watching online. She came out, and she came and to talk to the officers and say, "Hey, look, this is ridiculous. What's going on?" And you know what that little malicious gossip put on the social media? Oh, that she was having it out with the law enforcement, which is absolutely not true. In fact, again, those law enforcement officers, the three of them, I don't know their name. I don't remember their names. And if I did, I wouldn't say their names because I don't want to be disrespectful to them. I'm not sure that would be the right thing to do, but I do want to say Rockwall County Sheriff and their deputies do an outstanding job. They do an outstanding job for us, those of us who live in McLendon-Chisholm. Mayor Short wants us to have our own police officers, our own police force. He wants to, folks, get ready, because your Mayor Short, he wants to see bigger government. He thinks you'll be safer, and he'll talk about how it's for your safety that we need a police force that is our own, who will protect and serve all of us. But the fact of the matter is, the sheriff's department has already, when I was mayor, they said, "Hey, if you need a dedicated officer, we can give you one." And I said, "Well, that's what we want to know. Do we need one?" And that's where the Sheriff Evanson said, "No, you're not even close to being in need of a dedicated officer." Now, you add our unincorporated area for those people who pay nothing for their fire safety, and if you add their crime that goes on, I'm sure Keith Short will say, "Hey, we'll lump us all together. We'll pay for them," because he wants to be generous. That's what all liberals do. They're very generous with other people's money. They are terrible when it comes to fiscal conservatism. That's why I think that's why I was so impressed with what Lorna Kippett and Trudy Wessner did. They stood on the foundation of fiscal responsibility. I don't know how they would vote in October. I suspect that they would support it, but the fact is, they said no. They drew a line in the sand, and they demonstrated the propensity, the ability to stand up and say we need to look at this and see what's right first. You know, when I talked about the guy that was in the back of the room, his name is Daniel Tucker, and he is nominated for the CAD board. So the county appraisal district, Mr. Tucker is a Californian. Comes here with, he and his wife come here with their California values and California ideas. And now Mayor Short wants him to represent the people of Rockwall County on the CAD board. And Mr. Tucker, a dentist, a nice fellow, but he has, I will just say this, that the rhetoric that they have shared with me, he and his wife, I do not see that being played out. You know, people tell you what they think, but they do what they believe. And I think I know what the Tuckers actually believe. And I do not believe Daniel Tucker is a good representation for us. I think we need someone on the CAD board who is going to stand up to all of this nonsense, all of what's going on with these outrageous assessments on all of our homes and how our property taxes continue to rise because of that. So, but anyway, he was nominated by Keith Short, your mayor, Keith Short, and shouldn't be a surprise. Because, of course, the Tuckers, as I understand, were big supporters of the mayor. It's a good old boy network, and you don't have to be here you don't have to live here for a long time. You just have to have the willingness to throw out conservative values, fiscal responsibility, and be willing to and excited about moving toward a big government. And if big government is what you love, well then you'll love Keith Short. You'll continue to love Keith Short. Well, as I said before, you will have a choice in November, and I think Val Bodart. I hope that I can invite her to come on the show, and so that you can meet her. At some point, it'll be closer to November when people are starting to pay attention. But I would start paying attention now if I were you, because they're about to do a budget. They're about to start working on the budget, and folks, get ready. Because there is no way they're not going to raise our taxes. I can assure you of that. So if you think anything else, I mean, I don't know how they're going to pay for all of the things that they are trying to do without raising our taxes, but I guess we'll see. Maybe we might have someone else to join Trudy and Lorna Kippett. Well, that's it for today, and I appreciate you watching, and I hope that you have a really great day. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I'm not sure what the topic will be next week, but I guarantee you it'll be informative, so I can't wait to see you then. Have a great day. We'll see you then.